So, do any of you lot remember this guy? Because this convicted killer wounded a female prison officer in a frenzied 10-second attack whilst he was serving a life term for shooting a policeman back in 2003, and he's been given a further life sentence. A former US Marine and bodybuilder, David Bieber, used a potentially deadly homemade pronged iron bar to repeatedly stab Alison Smith in 2017 whilst he was serving life for the murder of Pc Ian Broadhurst and the attempted murder of two of his colleagues. Pc Broadhurst was shot in Leeds at point-blank range on Boxing Day 2003 as he and other officers checked on a suspected stolen car, so I'll go through that in a moment. However, a week-long trial at Worcester Crown Court early this year was told only good fortune had seen Ms. Smith escape life-changing injury or even death as she used an arm to protect her head at Long Larton. He was cleared of the prison officer's attempted murder but convicted in his June 2022 trial of wounding with intent and having an unauthorised weapon. At trial, Bieber, who's 56, claimed the attack at Long Larton on August 10, 2017 was aimed at winning a transfer back to Belmarsh in London, and Long Larton had cut his painkilling medication. He appeared at Worcester Crown Court today, where the sentencing judge told him the penalty for the unprovoked attack meant he would not be eligible for release until he was in his 80s. Jailing Bieber, who appeared via video link from Wakefield for life with a minimum of 6-year term, Judge Nicholas Cartwright told him that it had been a planned attack with a weapon on a wholly innocent prison officer. The sentence was passed after the judge ruled Bieber was a dangerous offender, already having serving a life sentence for murder, and having read his recent probation report which concluded he was of very high risk of harm to prison officers and if ever released, is a harm to the public too. He said Bieber, who said the attack was to get transferred to another prison where access to painkilling medication might prove easier, picked his moment and launched an unprovoked attack from behind. He grabbed Miss Smith around the neck with an arm and launched a frenzied attack, punching her in her face with the handhold of a weapon and trying repeatedly to stab her in the face. During the attack, you said you would kill her, after the attack saying you just wanted your meds. This was a planned attack with a weapon on a wholly innocent person, an officer only carried out because you hoped to achieve a transfer to another jail by means of your actions. Your victim was obviously vulnerable. She was in a locked corridor with you behind and a number of other inmates in front. She was isolated and significantly smaller than you. You were a tall, well-built man. The attack has resulted in her suffering a permanent psychological medical condition, having a substantial and long-term effect on her ability to carry out day-to-day activities and work. The judge told him a life sentence must follow. Fixing the minimum term, the judge said the sentence will begin and run from the date on which your existing minimum term is to end, namely on the 1st of January 2041. The effect is that your overall minimum term will rise from 37 to 43 years. The prisoner reacted to the news that he would not be eligible for release until 2047 by putting his head back against the wall and pushing his glasses further back on his head. Bieber, who had a trusted role as a cleaner at the time of the attack, denied attempted murder, an alternative charge of wounding, and the charge relating to the weapon. The court heard that the other officers quickly came to Miss Smith's aid after she screamed, restraining Bieber and disarming him. She was later treated in hospital for cuts to her mouth and chin and 4 wounds to her right arm. Miss Smith said at a previous hearing that the attack had been life-changing with her left in constant pain. So as I said, this former kickboxer was hunted down by US police for 8 years before he shot Pc Broadhurst. The bodybuilding fanatic is also accused of paying a hitman to kill a love rival in Florida back in 1995 and would face extradition if he is ever deemed safe to be granted parole in the UK. So Bieber was originally from Florida and he was briefly a US Marine before being discharged for going AWOL. He also became a drug dealer and a bodybuilder, and back in 1995 there was a fellow bodybuilder, Marcus Muller, and he was shot and killed in Fort Myers. Police arrested Bieber thinking that he had hired a hitman, but he was later released due to lack of evidence. However, in November 1995, Bieber's former girlfriend, Michelle Marsh, was attacked by the same gunman who had attacked Muller, and all 4 shots missed. Bieber fled the country, assuming the identity of Nathan Wayne Coleman through stealing the identity of a child who had died in 1975. Fast forward to the police shooting in Leeds. So Bieber is believed to have entered the United Kingdom back in 1996, again on a false passport. He was given a 6-month visa, but it was extended because he got married to someone up in Cumbria. Then, on the 26th of December 2003, in an area of Leeds, an unarmed traffic policeman, Ian Broadhurst, and his colleague Neil Roper saw Bieber's stolen BMW parked at the junction of Grange Park Avenue and Dib Lane, where Bieber had just been into an adjacent post office. They identified the number plates as false and asked him to accompany them to the police car where Bieber sat in the back seat. The officers didn't attempt to search him, but they called for backup. Roper then moved to handcuff Bieber, who was facing imprisonment for various offences in the UK and possible extradition to Florida. He drew a handgun and fired an initial 4 shots at the officers who tried to flee. One of the cops, Roper, was hit twice in the shoulder and abdomen but managed to get away. Broadhurst was shot once in the back and he was immobilised. There was another PC James Bank. He arrived as backup and he escaped injury after a bullet hit his radio. Bieber walked over to where PC Broadhurst was lying and fired a 5th shot into his head at point-blank range. It was the first fatal shooting of an English police officer for over 8 years. After the shooting, Bieber escaped down Dib Lane and stole a car at gunpoint outside a betting shop. This caused some confusion in initial news reports of the shootings, which stated that the shooting itself happened outside the betting shop. There was a nationwide search for Bieber, which was led by the West Yorkshire Police, and on December 27, 2003, Bieber took a taxi journey to Bradford, and on the 28th of December, armed police raided Bieber's apartment in Leeds. He was arrested by armed police at the Royal Hotel in Gateshead, and he had dyed his hair ginger. Under his bed, he had a loaded pistol, which was later determined to be the weapon used in the shooting, along with 300 rounds of ammunition. The next day, he was charged with murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. His trial was held in Newcastle, and it ended on the 2nd of December 2004. Bieber denied murder, 2 counts of attempted murder and possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life and possession of 200 pistol rounds found in a storage shed. The prosecution presented evidence from witnesses, identification of Bieber's voice and DNA evidence. However, Bieber's defense was that he was not the culprit, it was his friend who looked like him, who was also from Florida, that committed these offences and asked him to look after the murder weapon. Bieber said he could not name his friend for fear of reprisals. But Bieber was convicted on 1 count of murder and 2 counts of attempted murder, and the judge, Mr. Justice Moses, told Bieber that he had shown no remorse or understanding of the brutality of his crime, and the aggravating feature in the case was that Bieber did not need to shoot Broadhurst through the head, stating, "You had already disabled him and he was defenceless. You could have escaped, but then you chose to wait and fire a 2nd shot at point-blank range. To shoot and kill an officer in such circumstances, doing no more than trying to serve us all, is an attack on us all. It must be acknowledged that he might have died as a result of your first shot, but you made certain of his death." So guys, the lifer who shot dead a policeman in 2003 has been given a 2nd life term for a prison attack. It's your boy GC. Keep it locked, keep it real.